Hello, my friends. If you're trying to land a six-figure instructional design job in the United States, it is definitely possible, and in this video, I'll share my top tips to help you get there. So one of the main reasons I'm making this video is because I've spoken to a handful of aspiring instructional designers who would like to land six-figure ID roles, but they're kind of apologetic about it. They feel like they're being entitled, or they feel like maybe they're just being completely unrealistic because a six-figure ID role seems so impossible. And I'm the first to tell them it's not impossible. I work with aspiring instructional designers on a daily basis, both here in the free community and in my paid bootcamp. And landing six-figure ID job, it's not the norm by any means, but it is definitely not uncommon. And some of those people who I've had those conversations with, they have already landed their six-figure ID roles. Others are still working on it, but it is not this mysterious, mythical thing where maybe you'll get a six-figure ID role, maybe you won't. There is a method to it. And whenever I speak to someone who does land a six-figure ID role, either from the free content or from the paid content, I ask them, I'm like, okay, what was the interview process like? What did the hiring manager say that stood out to you? How do you think you were able to navigate this process to land such a well-paying role? And in this video, we're going to cover the things that come up again and again in these conversations. And again, these people are in the US where we have these six-figure conversations. So if you're not in the US, or if the pay scales aren't as high in whatever country you may be in, you should still be able to use these strategies and this approach to demand higher salaries. So let's dive into it. All right, here are the steps for landing a six-figure ID job. First up, it's creating a strong portfolio to show off your skills. After that, it's building your network and online presence so that you can get your name out there. From there, it's time to position your experience well so that you can optimize your resume and ace the interview. And of course, after all of that, if you've done that well, you'll be able to negotiate, which will have companies bidding against each other to secure your employment. And we're going to dive into each of these in depth in this video. Keep in mind though, this may take more patience and a bit more luck than just landing a general average ID role, or I should say average paying ID role. Because six-figure ID jobs are a bit above average. But again, if you are more patient, if you do put in more work, and if you do acknowledge that it may require a little bit of luck along the way, then it is definitely possible. I've seen it happen time and time again. So let's dive into it. First up, creating that portfolio. If you've been doing much research on how to land an ID job, this shouldn't be new to you, but this is where you demonstrate your skills with well-crafted instructional design projects. So quality definitely beats quantity here. I've seen people land six-figure ID jobs with just one or two projects on their portfolio sites. At most, you need three. So get that strong flagship project and one or two supporting ones, and that should be sufficient. You don't need a 10-project portfolio here. You will want at least one of your portfolio projects to show that you can solve a real-world problem with instructional design. So not just that you know how to create something in Storyline, but you know strategically where instructional designers come into the equation and how they can create real value for a company or in the world. Again, a lot of content on the channel to help with this, but you're going to need to know how to solve real knowledge and skill gaps with your instructional design skill set. And a flagship project is a great way to show this off in your portfolio. On your portfolio website, it's also a really good way to incorporate your story and personality so that people can learn more about you while they're on your site. Because now when a hiring manager or a recruiter or whoever it is, when they're on your website, you're already starting to build a relationship with them without them even talking to you. So they're already going to feel like they know you a bit better. Maybe if it vibes with their personality, they'll already like you a bit more just because you did weave in a bit of that personality onto your site. So it can definitely be good leverage when you get into that interview process. Of course, make your portfolio look good and function well, and not just the portfolio website, but also all of the projects. Visual design is really important here, at least for most people, because that's how we're forming our first impressions. So if it doesn't look professional, or if it looks thrown together, you're going to be trying to kind of crawl your way back out from that, instead of if it does look good and function well, then people are just looking for, okay, well, are there any problems? Are there any holes in this? So you'd rather start strong and then maybe there are mistakes in other places rather than start in the hole and then have to crawl your way out with good instructional design or e-learning development skills. And same thing goes with functionality. So if it's poor user experience or if people just are confused about how to interact with your website or your projects, then it's probably not going to go super well and you may not even get an interview, because if you confuse, you lose. I've heard that saying and I use that a lot to guide my design decisions. We don't want to confuse people. And part of the power in this is just that a strong portfolio really does change the dynamic going into an interview. And it's kind of the same thing I said about good visual design, right? If you have a good portfolio and you go into that interview, the person interviewing you, if they've seen your portfolio site, they already know that you can do the job if you've crafted that portfolio well. They already know that you have the skills they need in their company. So as long as you don't make any mistakes or you don't give them any reasons not to hire you, you're going to be in a really good position. Whereas if your portfolio wasn't very strong going into the interview, you're kind of having to compensate for that or make up for it. And that is not a position you want to be in. Again, we'll link more resources in the description. We have more videos to support each one of these tips, so check the description after this one if you're looking for more content. All right, so the next big tip here for landing a six-figure ID job is to network and connect. This is important. It's going to help your overall online presence. The main goal here is just getting your name out there. So it's in part networking and it's also in part just like posting and sharing your story and working out loud, because that's how you're going to get more offers. That's how you're going to get more, that's how you're going to get more referrals, which is going to lead to more interviews, which is going to lead to more offers. And when you have more offers, you have more bargaining power and more room to negotiate when you're trying to land that six-figure role. Okay, so show up on social media and in online instructional design communities. This isn't easy for everyone or natural for everyone. I have videos about how to start networking, so check those out. And we have a free online community where people are really supportive and helpful. So again, we can dive deeper into this. Let me know if you want some new content on how to network and connect, but it's just really getting your name out there. We want to optimize your LinkedIn profile. There's a video on this as well, because you want to make it easy for recruiters and hiring managers to find you when they're using keywords. It's going to be exhausting if you're trying to directly reach out to people and see if they have open opportunities. Cold outreach, not going to be super effective, most likely in your job search, at least not if you're asking for interviews. If you're reaching out to network or to get to know people, yeah, that will help. Which brings us into this bullet point. Conducting informational interviews is a really good way to learn more about the field, learn more about different companies that you may be interested in working in, and also just good ways to build relationships with people in the field. And then if those people know you're looking for a job, either after they meet you or a month down the road, once they see your portfolio and they see, okay, yeah, you're on the market, they may be able to give you some referrals internally. So that's a bit more nuanced. But again, if you're interviewing people in the field just to get to know more about their company or their role without asking anything in return, that's a really good way to network and connect. And also just support other instructional designers. You've probably heard me say it in past videos, but the people who I see that are most successful in this space are helping the most generously. Even people who have been working on the transition for a few weeks, you can tell the ones who have this really helpful energy and spirit, because they're already trying to help people. They are working out loud. So they're sharing maybe some really helpful resources they found. They're talking about their struggles so that other aspiring IDs can relate to them. Just putting that good energy out there and trying to help people who aren't as far along as you, even if you're only a week into it. I'm sure you and your perspective can help people who are earlier in the process. So these are some general recommendations. Again, check out the other networking videos if you're new to this and you're not sure how to go about it. All right, so next up we have positioning your experience. And this one, it may seem intuitive, but it actually takes a little bit of work. So you'll want to identify the instructional design tasks that you did in your past or current roles. Okay, and even if it doesn't seem obvious at first, I'm sure you have been doing ID tasks, whether it's analyzing things, designing solutions, developing things in tools, or evaluating programs, or working in learning management systems. There are a lot of different possibilities. We have workshops on the channel where we dive into these things, but try to make a list of these things, okay? the ID tasks specifically, not just what tasks did you do in your past roles, but which instructional design tasks did you do in your past roles. And backing up a step too, this is important because even if you haven't had instructional designer as a job title on your resume, I'm sure you've done some ID or ID adjacent tasks. So that's what we're trying to identify. We're of course going to want to highlight these responsibilities on your resume and on your LinkedIn profile, only the ID related ones. And then we'll want to brainstorm stories related to those tasks. So you could do this by looking at common interview questions or just by looking at the tasks you've identified. What are some stories you can tell using the STAR format? And again, there's plenty of content on the STAR format if you're new to that. But what situations have you been in where you've had to use these ID tasks? What did you do with, how did you execute those tasks and what results did you produce? So really spend some time on this. Again, this is the part that it may seem easy. Yeah, tell stories about how you performed ID tasks, but if you put in the effort, take a few days, take hours, whatever you need to write out these stories or at least outline them, that is going to help you immensely when it comes to interviewing. So practice telling these stories in response to interview questions. That's how you're going to position yourself as having instructional design experience, even if your resume doesn't have the title instructional designer. Okay? And I've seen people do this really, really well. And it's a process. It's not like you just find out about instructional design and then the next day you say, oh yeah, here are 10 stories I have to tell about how I have been doing ID work. Sometimes it takes people weeks or even a month or two to really see all of the parallels between the roles they've been doing and the role they will be doing as an instructional designer. So really take the time to identify and identify those stories and tell them in the best and most engaging way. All right, so that's the resume and the interview. And if you've done all of those pieces well, you will be in a very good position to negotiate. Okay, so work through the interview process with multiple companies because again, if you've taken those steps, you will be landing interviews through referrals, through submitting your resume to jobs, and through people finding you on LinkedIn just because of your keyword optimization. So you'll be going through the process, at least several interviews, hopefully more. And you need to land multiple offers so that you can leverage these offers against one another. And I guess I want to say a disclaimer here. There are definitely people who land six-figure ID roles without negotiating, but this is the most effective way to break six figures. If maybe your first offer was like 85 or 90, this is a very surefire way to get above that, as long as you have additional offers. And this is where, again, it could take some patience. If you landed one offer and you're still going through the interview process with 3 other companies, it's tricky because sometimes companies will try to pressure you and say, hey, we need you to accept this by Wednesday. So sometimes you'll have to trust yourself and say, hey, I don't want to get pressured into accepting a lowball offer because you still have 3 or 4 other interviews in the pipeline and you could very well land a six-figure ID role if you negotiate well. So be careful. I've seen companies try to pressure people into accepting offers very soon, but you can leverage those offers against each other. So companies will outbid one another if you've positioned yourself well and seem to be the only viable option. And that's a key piece of this because there are a lot of people who are going through these interview processes who aren't taking all the steps we outlined here. It takes time and effort to build that strong portfolio and to prepare for interviews in a meaningful way and to really build your brand. I mean, you're kind of building your brand, but also just building your presence so people know who you are. That takes a lot of time and not a lot of people have the time or energy to commit that time. I'm getting redundant. But so when you've done all of this, the interview process is kind of like the payoff, right? So when you start getting in those offers, you're probably going to want to be pretty quick to act because you just don't want to stress about it anymore. You've been dealing with it for 3 months or 6 months, maybe even 12 months, depending on how much time you've had available. And you just want to accept that offer now. You're sick of waiting and wondering when you're going to get that ID job. But if you can hold off a little bit longer, maybe it'll be a few more weeks, maybe it's even a couple more months, you can secure that six-figure offer out of the gate because the negotiation piece is key. So again, these are the steps. If the process, the surefire way that can reduce the amount of luck involved is to position yourself so that there is no other real competition for the role. If you're applying to the right roles and you've done all of the prep and you're positioning yourself well, there's not going to be a lot of competition in the company's eyes. They're going to say, this person is our top choice candidate. Yeah, there's some other people that we could probably make it work with, but we need this person. So if you have 3 or 4 companies who are looking at you with that same approach, when you come back and you say, hey, I just got an offer from this company for 100 grand, they're going to say, hey, I think we have some room in our budget to get this person because they're going to provide more value to our team than maybe 2 of these other people or 1.5 of these other people. And a lot of companies are having a hard time finding instructional designers who have put in all of this work and effort. Because again, you don't really need to aim for an entry-level role when you've spent dozens or hundreds of hours upskilling yourself and building a strong portfolio to show off those skills. So when companies find someone who has done that, they don't want to lose that person, right? So hopefully this helped bring some power back to you as the applicant in the process. If you have put in the work, know how valuable you are to a company. Don't feel bad about aiming for a 6-figure role if you know that you're putting in all of the effort to secure a role like that. And if that does sound like what you're aiming for and you need some support along the way, there's plenty of free content on this channel to help you out. The best place to start would be with the How to Design Effective E-Learning playlist. That's going to help you create a really strong flagship project for your portfolio, which is the first step for making all of these other pieces happen. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Definitely check out that How to Design Effective E-Learning video and full playlist if you're interested in learning more. And please let me know when you do land that 6-figure offer. That's one of my favorite things to hear. So I will see you in the next video, and thanks for making it to the end of this one.